So chapter 4. Va'od yesh lekol nefesh elokis shlosha levushim. Now again, chapter 3, we were describing the mahus, the essence of the godly soul, which we will go over again. But now we see that there are levushim. Now what are levushim? Levushim are clothing. Now the difference between the mahus and the levush is that the levush is like a switch that you can turn on and off. So we'll see what the levushim are. Shehem machshava, dibur, u'maisa, shatarek mitzvah satayra. So we have three levushim. Machshava, these are your acts. Machshava is your thought, your dibur is your speech, and your maisa is your act, are your actions. Now your actions, if you're doing something, you can just stop it. If you're speaking, you can just stop speaking. And if you're thinking, people think that, well, I'm not in control of my thoughts. Now, thoughts is a constant thing. It's hard to actually stop thinking. However, the way to understand the thinking is that a thought comes in. Do you have to think about that thought or not? So if you say cheeseburgers, you can think about cheeseburgers, but it's your machshava to decide to think about eating the cheeseburgers or whatever you want to do with the cheeseburgers. And the mashals we brought out before is there's a knock at the door. You don't have to answer it. Now with all these three things, machshava, dibur, and maisa, you can do other people's machshavas, diburs, and maisas. So if you're reading a book, you can read the Marx's book on Marxism and try to and you're thinking about Marxism as you're reading it. It doesn't mean that you agree with it. It doesn't mean that that's how you hold or you that's what you think Marxist ways. But your machshava can be someone else's machshava. Your dibur, you can give over a speech from someone else, and your maisa, you can be a shaliach for someone and do something for somebody else. So all these things are they're things that you put on. You can turn them on and off, and therefore I can tell you, think about the color pink, and then you can just think about the color pink. However, if I tell you something that's in the 10 spheres, which will be your seichel and your midos. So your midos we'll see, the midos, there's only really 2 midos, even though it comes into 7. The midos are love and hate, yira, however you want to define yira. So if I tell you to love somebody, so you can't just turn on that love. And if I tell you to, again, understand Bina, have Bina in this matter. So let's say, quantum physics, understand quantum physics. Now it's going to take time to understand quantum physics, and it really has to be yours before you're going to be having Bina. You can't have someone else's Bina. You can't have someone else's Chachma. You can't have someone else's Das. You can't have someone else's passions. So you say, oh, my best friend loves this band, therefore I love him. It doesn't work that way. Just because he likes him, you need to build up things, but you can say whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. So really you have your essence, and then you have these levushim that go on top of them. So that's really the difference between them. Now to do but these are the expressions. The expressions of your seichel and your midos are going to be machshava, dibur, and maisa. You don't have other expressions. Now since we're talking about the nefesh elokis here, so therefore the seichel and the midos are seichel Hashem and the ahavas and yiras Hashem. And since the nefesh elokis has ahavas and yiras Hashem, therefore the expressions of the nefesh elokis will be machshava, dibur, maisa, shel tariq mitzvah satayra. That's how it is. That's what it will be. It has to come out in Torah because the nefesh elokis, that's its essence. The essence loves God, and therefore it will do things that it loves, and therefore it will come out in doing Torah mitzvahs. And therefore, if you are not doing Torah and mitzvahs, then your nefesh elokis will not be expressing himself. Since your core self is your nefesh elokis, therefore when you don't do mitzvahs, you will be depressed because you are not expressing. Your levishim are not what you want them to be. Now you can cover over your core self, and you can let, as we'll see later, the nefesh behema win the battle. But why should you do mitzvahs at this stage, or why is doing mitzvahs a good idea? Because if you don't, you will not be a happy person, as we will see further. So kashadam makayim b'maisa shel mitzvahs maisius v'dibur hu oisek b'ferish kol tarik mitzvahs v'cholachtan. So as you come out with your machshava dibur maisa, you're doing all the mitzvahs, and your machshava is doing the Torah, and therefore you're koilel all the avri nafshim. So therefore you're mavulash in the tarik mitzvahs of Torah. So then you're and in the press, then or your chokhmah and your das, that's all in the Torah. Because Ahav is a shirish of all the Ramach mitzvahs aseh. So you have the Ahava is the Ramach. It's 248 mitzvahs aseh. Mitzvahs aseh is coming from the Ahava. So you have the limbs. The limbs draw their life from the neshama. How are your limbs animated? They're animated from the neshama. And then for the expression of the neshama, the ava will come out in the expression of the limbs. And that's why it's 248 mitzvahs are coming from the ahavas Hashem, which is coming from the limbs, the Arvi de Malcha, as they say. They're drawn out from that. And without that, there is no kiyama amoti. And without the ahava that draws that's doing the mitzvahs, that the ahava, there's no kiyam amoti. It's not a real kiyam amoti. The akaim be'emes hu oives Hashem v'chavis le'davka boy. Look, and this is the nefesh elokis. Why does the nefesh elokis want to do mitzvahs? Because it wants to be doivek in Hashem. Chavis le'davka bo be'emes. That's the desire of the nefesh elokis. Okay, and the nefesh elokis versus the nefesh behema. The nefesh behema is only interested in itself. The nefesh elokis is interested in God. So therefore, the nefesh elokis is not interested in schar. The schar is what can I get out of it. And therefore, the nefesh elokis will never do anything for schar because it doesn't care about schar. Schar is what's in it for me. But now the nefesh elokis wants to be an expression of God in order to be daivek to Hashem be'emes. And therefore, that's when the love of the nefesh elokis comes out, it will do these mitzvahs in an amiti way. And that's how you... So the only way that you can be daivek in Hashem be'emes is through doing the mitzvahs, because they have the Ramach Averim Demalka Kaviyachol, as you say, it's somewhere else. And the Yira is the 365 mitzvahs lo taseh. Yira lemurud b'melach. So again, it's not a fear of oynesh; it's a Yira that you don't want to rebel, or a deeper level of Yira that he's embarrassed from the gadlus of Hashem. So if people act differently when people are looking at them, no matter what they're doing, and therefore to be doing these things in front of God that you know He doesn't want you to do. So if you have a level of romamus of God, so therefore you will change your actions, and therefore you will stay away from the lotas, because you know that's not the Ratzon Hashem. So we have really what your essence is, which is your midus and your seichel, and then you have what you're doing, and they can be separate. You can do things that you don't want to do, and you can do things you do want to do. Now, usually what we're going to say is that doing mitzvahs is more important as how you feel. Now, usually in a human environment, what is your essence is more important than what you do. So if you say, or you act like you love your children, or you have feelings towards somebody, but really your essence you don't like them. So you don't like the person, but you say I love you, or you buy them things that they like, or do those acts of love, whatever the love language is. So therefore, that seemingly would not be the best relationship, where you don't actually like the person at all. And it would seem to be that in a human relationship, that your essence is seemingly more important, that if you actually love the person but don't say it, or you don't act it, or don't act that way, that's still going to be more important than not actually liking the person at all. Now what we're going to see, that is the opposite when it comes to your relationship with God, and we'll see why that is. And actually your actions are going to be more important than your essence, whether you actually like doing it or not. You have the difference between your essence and how your feelings, your true feelings on something, or who you are. Again, your true feelings you can't change in an instant. But I could just buy you a gift, even if I don't like you. And I can just go to the shop right now and buy it. And I can change my levushim. And I can say, I love you, even if I don't. But the ahava, which is your midos, I can't change that. So in a human relationship, it seems to be, most people will say that the true midos are more important than the actions. It's more important to love your wife than to say you love her. Because you can hate her and say you love her. That seemingly is less good than actually loving her and not saying you love her. So in a human relationship, the essence of the relationship would be more important than the actions. But when it comes to Torah and your relationship with God, then your actions are going to be more important than your midos. So what you do will be more important than who you are. And we'll explain why that is. But that's a big difference when it comes to Torah. V'hine, the shalosh levushim elu Torah mitzvahs av shenikrim levushim lenefesh. So see, they're only levushim, and these levushim are going to be more important than the essence. They're just called levushim, ruach neshama im kol zeh. So it's the lavish of the nefesh. So again, the nefesh, ruach, and neshama are divided into three. We're not going to get into this, but it'll kind of answer a problem which will kind of come up here. Im kol zeh govo. You see, even though it's only levushim, it's govo v'godlam altam le'enkates. The level of just doing these actions are such a high level. V'sof al milas nefesh, or it's beyond. Their mila is beyond the milas of nefesh, ruach, neshama atzman. It's even beyond the essence of the neshama. So the actions, the levushim, are greater than the essence of the neshama. It says in the Zohar, D'oraisa v'Kadosh Baruch Hu kul echad. Now he's going to explain why, because the Torah and Hashem is all one. This is what we had before that Uyadeh v'Hu Amada in the Rambam. Even though Kadosh Baruch Hu is called Ein Sof, v'Leglusa Ein Cheker, and no, and then this is a big problem here. V'Lis Machshava Tefisa Beklal. So no Machshava can grab God. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Ein Sof. He has no end. He's at the level of infinity. Since God's infinite, then your Machshava cannot grab God at all. And also his Ratzon, his and his Chochmah, that's all coming from the level of infinity. Ein Cheker letunuvaso. So even his Bina you can't grasp. Cheker eloko timsa. Are you really going to find God? So therefore, kilo machshatai machshavosei. So when we try in our essence to grasp God, we're not going to be able to grasp God in our essence, because even though the nefesh elokis is a chelek of God above our midos and our seichel, while it's coming from God, we don't have the Chabad of God Himself. I mean, that's ridiculous. Obviously, we don't see God. We don't see things the way that God sees them. Our Chabad is a hishtalshelus of God that is coming down through the it's the tzimtzum of the Chabad of God, and so to our midos we have love just like God is love, but it's only a reflection of that as it comes through the all the creations, the hishtalshelus. Which we haven't gone into, but Heshashta is basically spiritual evolution from God's complete infinity as He becomes less and less infinite to this world where you can't even see Him anymore, and you can say He doesn't exist. So our Chabad and our Midos, even though they're the same as God's, they come through all that, and therefore our Chabad that we have can't grasp God. Since we can't grasp God, therefore if we use our essence to grasp God, we're not grasping Him. We're only grasping Him on a level that our Hishtalshelus Chabad can grasp Him, and therefore we're only grasping God on a lower form, and not actually Him Himself. Just however we can grasp Him, but not the essence of God in His infinity. Just a tzimtzum level of God. So now we have to see, again, why is why are the actions so amazing and is even greater than the essence? So in the great when you find the greatness of God, there you'll find Him, His anavosov. It's simsim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ratzon HaChakam Spitarik Mitzvahs. Now here we have like the miracle of creation, or the miracle of the Nesinus Torah. That what was the Nesinus Torah? That God was mitzamsem his Ratzon and his Chochmah into Tarek mitzvahs. So therefore, when you're doing the 613 mitzvahs, which again is coming from the Ava and the Yira, and the letters and the Torah, so the 24 books of the Torah, God puts Himself all in there, in order that every neshama or ruach and nefesh in the guf of Adam is able to hasig and bedaita, that's able to hasig bedaita. So if I try to hasig God, I can't do it because my das is trying to get hasag and trying to understand infinity. I can't do that. However, anything that's to do with Torah is something completely different, because once God gave the Torah, God fits Himself into the 613 mitzvahs, and therefore, and brought that down. What's the Nesinus Torah? He put the infinity into something finite, and therefore when I touch the finite, I'm getting Him completely. And therefore if I learn Torah, so therefore I'm getting God. If I'm like, oh, I'm a very spiritual person, and I love God, and I go to fields and I drive around on Shabbos because that's really important to me, and I feel so spiritual doing that. So there I'm trying to grab God in my essence, and I can't do that. But once I try to grab God inside a framework of Torah, there the miracle of God fitting Himself into the Torah, which is the miracle of the Nesinus Torah, God is mitzamtzim Himself into the Torah, and therefore now whenever I do a mitzvah, I have the tzimtzum of God, which is God in His complete essence, just on a level that I can grasp. And when I think Torah, machshava, when I speak Torah, or when I do Torah, i.e. I do the mitzvahs, so therefore I am grasping God completely in a form that I get Him completely. So kol masha efshel lakai masha b'maisa dibur machshava. So again, we're fitting down God into this infinity, but that's the miracle of the Torah. That's the nace of the Nesinus Torah, that every mitzvah had. Now every mitzvah will have one of the limbs, and the kol Torah kula has the whole of God in it. So you do everything you can with these levushim, maisa Torah machshava ve'al yedei zeh tisales b'chol eser bechinos b'shlosh levushim elo. And therefore, your whole eser bechinos, all of the 10 midos, your seichel and your midos, then will be milavesh in the 3 levushim elu. And therefore, nimshala Torah lamayim. Now here the key about mayim is that the mayim that comes down is the same water that's up above that comes down to the bottom. It's the same mayim. So you're saying here that God in His infinity, this is the miracle of Torah. Why is Torah like mayim? Because the Torah that's in God's Ratzon, in His essence, when God's in His infinity, is the same Torah that comes down here that says if a shore falls into a bore, then you have to pay. The same, that's exactly the same Torah. So it's the same. So God has fitted, so whatever it means that a shore fell into a bore, if you bring that all the way back up, you have God in His essence. But even though it's a shore and a bore, you still have God in His essence, and that's the miracle of it. But if I have machshavas outside of Torah, so I'm just talking about shores and bores, it's nothing to do with God. It has to be in the Torah framework in order to have God. Otherwise, I'm trying to understand infinity, and this ox running around is nothing to do with God's infinity, and therefore I'm missing the whole point. So ma ma'im yordim mokim gevur lamokim namok. So the Torah is coming down. So to the Torah, but it's the same Torah. So again, we have to always go back to this idea that God and His Torah is all one. But the machshava, I try to grab God, I'm missing God. But however, since He and His Torah is one, if I grasp Torah, now I grasp God. So there's like a transposing here. I can't grasp God, but I can grasp Torah, and Torah is God. And the miracle of Torah is that God put Himself in a way that I can understand. Umisham nisa v'yorda b'seiser hamadregos, and therefore from there it comes down in all the madregos, all the way down in the house shalshalos ha'oilamos until it's lavosh b'darvim gashmim v'yani oilam hazeh. And therefore we come down. So the Torah is ani olam hazeh. All that is, it's just godliness, God Himself. It's a piece of God in this world. That's what the Torah is. That's what it's talking about. That's roiv mitzvahs. The Torah kulchan v'chalaktim is all in the physical world. U'b'tzurfei oisius gashmius biyadu al sefer. So again, the tzurfei oisius be in the 2nd chapter where he talks about the creations of the world. It gets into there. So the 24 books of the Torah, that's all a tefisa of God. In order that all the machshava tefisa behen ve'afilu bechinas dibur ma'isa, that's below so machshava is like a more refined level, but even the ma'isa and the dibur, so therefore tefisa ben u mitla beshes behem, and therefore you can be grasping God with that. So now you'll see that the action is greater. So therefore, when you do when you fill your levushim, your machshava dibur ma'aser with Torah, therefore your entire essence of being is covered by the by God. So your bechinas nefesh, your eser midos, is surrounded by God. And kol tarik gevera, the whole 613 averim from your head until your toe, it's all of it is bound up in the bounding, the tying up of life. Hashem mamish. So therefore, by doing that, you're completely bound up with God. So again, we started off by saying that your essence cannot be bound up with God because your essence can't grasp God. At least machshava tevisa beklal. And now we're saying, but if you do the mitzvahs, now you are bound up with God. And therefore we see that the actions are greater than your essence, which is completely different to how it is in a human relationship. Now, what comes out here, and this is a very important point, is that your relationship with God is defined by Him, not by you. So however I would like the mitzvah to be, I think sukkahs should be in Florida by a pool. Now, that's my machshava trying to grasp God, and therefore I can fail completely with that because I miss infinity. So if I define how I want the relationship to be, I will probably fail. Since God is saying that the way to have the relationship with me is through my Torah and through my mitzvahs, therefore it has to be on His terms. Therefore, you come out with this mashal, which I think is a great mashal because everyone hates it. The wife makes a 5-course meal for the husband with all the foods and everything's there and all the meats and all the desserts and all of this, and at the end of the meal he says to her, that meal was amazing, every food was great except the soup, although it had salt in it, it didn't have enough salt, and therefore your entire meal was as if I never ate anything and as if you didn't do anything. And that's Judaism, because it has to be based on God's ratzon, based on however God has put out how the mitzvah is to be done. This is how you have a relationship with me. And if you've been wearing tefillin for years and there's a tiny bit of the hay is too long and it's closed in now, so then it's called apostle tefillin. You didn't get that connection to God. You can get schar for your kavana, but again, the Nefesh Elokis doesn't want schar. So it has to be on God's level because you can't connect to God on your level. Therefore, it has to be on His level. Therefore, every mitzvah, you've got all these dikdukim. If you don't do it like this, the whole thing's apostle. And then people, just leave me alone. I did enough. Again, if you light candles, Shkia this week is 7:04. If you light candles at 7:03, you're a big tzaddik. If you light candles at 7:15, you're biggest Russia. Like, who cares about the time? It says no, everything has to be medaic on the time because the relationship, in order to have that relationship with God, has to be on God's terms. Because the actions is more important than the essence. I love God. It's not good enough. You have to do the action. And that action has to be a Torah action, and therefore it's defined that way. But again, by our relationships, and therefore it's better to be the essence because I'm trying to have a relationship with you. I can't grasp the person completely, but my relationship with that person really is based on how I can grasp them, and therefore it's more important how I have that essence, how my essence is. Now, it seems to be so what we're saying so far is that the action is more important than the essence, and therefore if I want to do the mitzvah or not, who really cares? What has kavana got to do with anything? And again, if we're eating matzah. Now, if you eat matzah because you're hungry, there has to be kavana of I'm eating this matzah because God told me to. Again, most people aren't going to eat 500 shekel matzah just because they're hungry. They're usually only doing it because that's what God said. But who cares if you love doing the mitzvah? You're doing it because you love God. You don't because you don't. Seemingly at this point it doesn't matter. Now, in order to bring yourself in order to have your midos completely enveloped with the mitzvah, if you do a mitzvah with, so your machshava diba meiser, they're all your externalities, your levushim, they're all involved in the mitzvah, and they're all involved with God, but your panemius is not involved with God. The only way to involve both your panemius and your chitzoni, both of them with God, is by your chitzoni fulfilling your panemi, and therefore also your panemi is in the relationship. So you can have the only way that your nefesh elokis is going to be happy is if it is also part of the ahava. Its ahava is coming out in the mitzvah, and therefore it will be able to be involved. Because if you hate God, so that's coming from nefesh behema, and therefore you hate God, you do the mitzvah. God is surrounding your chitzoni, but your nefesh elokis is left out of the connection because its ahava was not brought into the equation. So it is still important to have that, and obviously there are all levels of kavanas. So now here we go into the idea of, and this is a big point in life, is there's relationship versus pleasure. And that if you increase your pleasure with somebody, you tend to decrease the relationship, and if you increase the relationship, you'll decrease the pleasure. So you can kind of choose one or at any point in time in your relationship. Do I want to take pleasure from here, or do I want to have a better relationship? Explain the idea of the pleasure versus relationship. You'll have that you want to watch an adult movie that's clever and is toifes your seichel, and your kid wants to watch a My Little Pony movie, or a Pixar movie. So if you go to the Pixar movie, so you may hate it and not have enjoyment at all from that. However, you will be strengthening the relationship because you're not there for yourself. You're there for the kid. But if you take the kid to your favorite movie, so then they're not going to enjoy it, and you're taking the pleasure, but you're like ruining the relationship with them because you've taken, because their relationship with you has to be on your terms. And you have, again, a lot of people will just what's it, the Simpsons, where Homer gets Marge a bowling ball that fit his hand, because the whole point of him giving her a present is what can he get out of it, because he sees the relationship through him, and therefore if you want the relationship, so therefore you buy something for her, you don't get something for yourself. If you take yourself out of it, I'm not looking what I can get out of this, I'm looking to what's the best thing for you right now. So they say because if you want a relationship with God, which your nefesh elokis does, which is your core essence, so then this world, ba'olam hazeh, this is the only place that you can have that relationship with God, because by doing Torah mitzvahs, this is the only place that you can do Torah mitzvahs. You can't do Torah mitzvahs in Gan Eden. So therefore teshuva ma'asim tovim, which is the way of doing the mitzvahs, so ba'olam hazeh mikol chai olam haba, because olam haba is the place of pleasure. And therefore you can have tremendous pleasure, but you're not getting a relationship. When you're getting the tremendous pleasure in Gan Eden, you're just pleasuring yourself, and God really doesn't have to be there. It's all about what can I get from God. But here, it's not about you enjoying yourself, it's about getting that pleasure, and therefore the ma'asim tovim in this world, that's going to be much greater, because olam haba is just nene. You're just getting pleasure. Now what can you get pleasure from? You cannot get pleasure from the essence of God, because once you get the pleasure from the essence of God, then you cease to exist. Mizev hashechina shehu tanok hahasaga. You understand God on a great level. But understanding God is impossible, even for the angels, to get to get that level of understanding. because it's only a ha'ara from the light of Hashem. So something comes out of God, and you can grasp that something that comes out of God. And it's called Ziv HaShechin. It's just a ray, which you're getting here when you do a mitzvah. So you can completely surround yourself with God, with that. So again, when you do the mitzvah, God completely surrounds you. And all your levushim are taken up with that mitzvah. God surrounds you when you're doing the mitzvah. But that's what is Kodesh Baruch Hu b'kavod atzmuso. It is Him because He is His Torah, and therefore when it comes out in the mitzvahs, you're getting the essence of Torah, and you're getting Har Sinai right there, where God put Himself into the mitzvahs. You're getting God's essence in that mitzvah, which you can't get elsewhere. But again, that's only the God is surrounding you. So therefore, if you want Kodesh Baruch Hu, leit machshava tefisa bei, your machshava can't be toifus that ki im kasher tefisa machlesh b'torah mitzvahs. You can only do it in Torah mitzvahs, and therefore you in Gan Eden you're getting Hana, you're only getting a ray of God. The azi tefisa mavesha b'Kodesh Baruch Hu mamash reis the Kodesh Baruch Hu kulachal. It's only in Torah mitzvahs. So even though that the Torah is the Gashmi, and you'll think, what does God care about oxes? That is like hugging the king derech mashal. That even though that there is that there's no difference between whether if you hug, basically he says if you hug a king in lots of clothing or if you hug a king with less clothing on, you're still hugging the king. So even though we have all these many levels of hishtalshelus and spiritual evolution from infinity into a ox, God is still in there once that ox is in a Torah framework. So whether you hug when he is wearing one clothing, or whether you hug him when he's wearing many clothings, because the goof of the melech is at the essence of God is there anyway. And also if the king hugs his arm, whether he is, so again the arm is just one of the mitzvahs. If you just do one mitzvah, even though he's got that arm in many clothings, like it says Yemeni Tig B'cheni. So that's chapter 4, which again explains the expression of the Nefesh Elokis, that the only way the Nefesh Elokis wants to be expressed is through Torah and mitzvahs. And therefore, because it loves God, it is God, and therefore its seichel is God, and its midos, there's a love for, and a yiras of God, and therefore it wants to express in God, and therefore when you express yourself in Torah and mitzvahs, therefore you're able to express the Nefesh Elokis, and God will surround and bound up around you. So therefore, there's a tefisa of it, which he's going to explain in the next chapter. So chapter Hey will explain the Mala of Torah, where basically the Mala of Torah is that not only is God grabbing you, but you're grabbing God as well. Ber Heitev Loshen Tefisa. So late machshava tefisa beklal. So no machshava can grab God. So anything kol seichel shemachshel maske b'seichel eze mushkal. Using all these words, basically, when you get an idea, you're like in complete control of the idea. That the mushkal toifes as a mushkal makvik b'seichel. So then you grab the idea, you have it, and you can see it in every way. So I mean, a good marshal of this would be at the end of the Matrix, where Neo sees everything in 3D. The whole kind of movie, he kind of sees the stuff coming down in 2D, and then as it gets to the end. And he gets his godlike power, so he sees it in 3D, and he has complete control over everything. Where in the movie it said, does this mean I'll be chasing bullets? I'll be dodging bullets? He says, no, you won't have to. And he doesn't really understand what that means until the end, where he has complete control of the bullets because he understands the whole. He's now got the whole thing. He understands it completely. And therefore, if you've got another example of the difference between what is your bino or your das, 2 plus 2 equals 4, and therefore just changing that das is a difficult thing. But you when you get the idea 2 plus 2 equals 4, you have it, and therefore you can to an apple and an apple. So 2 apples and 2 books are also 4, and you just know it. You just know it completely because you're completely toifes the idea. You grab the idea, and no matter how that idea plays out, you're in control of that idea. So therefore, you have the muskal is makifu b'seichel. Your seichel is over, and you can explain it to people, and you can the whole idea. Now you may not understand it on day one, but when you do grasp it, now it's completely yours, and your toif is it. So therefore, again, when you're basically going to say that when you're learning Torah, so therefore you're grabbing God because you've got God's ideas completely in your ideas. So if you have a simple halacha, what shoe do you put on first, your right or your left? You put on your right. I mean, you get that, and why is it on the right? Because God gave the Torah with his right hand. So you're in control of that idea, and you get it, and therefore you're grabbing God in that, not God grabbing you like in the mitzvahs, but now you're grabbing God, and God's also grabbing you, so you have a much higher level when it comes to Torah, because of the idea of tefisa. And also in the seichel is mulvesh b'mushkal b'shar shemitzvah v'tefisa b'seichlo. So again, this is the double way. So the mashal is when someone understands a halacha and a mishnah gemara, clearly, and his seichel, his typhus is completely, it completely controls it, and also his seichel is mulvash b'ol tosha. So now at the time you're doing it, you've got it. But also when you're not learning it, you also understand it. So it's like not just because if I say 2 + 2 = 4. And even when you're not thinking about that, you still get it. You still know 2 + 2 = 4. So here the halacha zu hi hachmasod. So that halakha is God. So what would God do if Reuven says that the half this is my talis and I found it? What would God do? That this would be how they psak. So that's all grabbing God. This is all understanding God's hachma. And even this, if this idea never is and never was, no one cares about the halacha l'maisa. You're not learning Torah to get halacha l'maisa. You're learning Torah to grasp God. Therefore, who cares if it's going to be or not? What would God say in this situation? And once I grasp that, I am grasping God in my kishkas. And therefore, who cares if it's going to be? If he says thus, this will be the halacha. So therefore, he masagat toifus umakib b'seichlo all these things. And here's the yichud niflo. This so again, learning Torah and getting the halacha clear. That's a yichud niflo. She'ein yichud kamohu. There is no devekas. There's no oneness that is like this when you understand something in your seichel and you just completely get an idea. There is nothing in Gashmias that is like this fusion. To be one and one mamish, every side, every way that you look at it. And this is the Ma'is Gedoyle v'niflos lein kate, so the mitzvahs yediyas Torah, I'll call them mitzvahs maisis. So say, Talmud Torah keneged kulam, and this is why. And even the mitzvahs Turis b'dibur, fila al mitzvahs Talmud Torah shedibur. So this is great, even though you have the Torah in Dibur, the machshava of Torah is even greater. And this is the mitzvahs shedibur ma'isa Kodesh Baruch Hu, Mabishet nefesh umakifa or merosh ve'ad ragla. So therefore, learning Torah, you completely. So when the mitzvahs you're doing this, so God is completely surrounding you. Ubediyas Torah, the seichel is mulash b'chachmas Hashem. Gam chachmas Hashem is in him. So you have the chachmas Hashem in him. Whatever the seichel is able to be toifes, and therefore you got God in your kishkas when you're learning Torah. Each person conforming to his seichel and his yediyah, and therefore in the Diyas Torah, the Torah is milveshes benefesh adam v'seichel mekavs b'toichem. It's called lechem u'mazon hanefesh. So since the Torah that you learn, say what's the difference between the Torah and the mitzvah? The mitzvah is a levush. The mitzvah is something you put on, and just like a coat, you put it on and you take it off. When you're wearing it, you're wearing it. When you take it off, no one knows you were wearing it. And if you go in wearing a suit to a job interview, they don't know what you were wearing in the morning. But if you go and you eat lots of food, you can see he's getting fat. He's been eating food. So Torah is like lechem, because the lechem goes into, it becomes part of you mamish. Now again, this is only the type of Torah that you learn, that you actually get it, that it becomes part of you. If you learn Torah where it just goes through you, you can have food that you eat, like if you eat grass, it'll just go through you. You don't digest any of it. Therefore, you have to bake. And if you eat dough that's not baked, so it'll just go through you. You don't digest it. But if you bake the Torah and you understand it properly and you have Havana in what you're saying, so therefore it becomes part of you. It becomes part of you. It's like the lechem, and therefore God becomes part of you. You become godly by learning Torah, and therefore if you have das Torah, therefore your das is God. Again, it's the Hishtalshus level of God, but God put himself into the Torah in an Hishtalshus level, and that Hishtalshus of God is the God in the Etzim. So just like the lechem, that's the physical bread, feeds the guf when it enters into it, and becomes your kishkas, becomes your internals mamish. It becomes your blood and your basar kibasro. So again, the food is becoming your flesh. So the Torah becomes your flesh. God becomes your flesh, and then it will be kayem. That the dias Torah v'hasaka benefesh Adam, that he learns it well in Iyun, the seichel, until it is grabbed in his seichel and it becomes one with him. And nasem mozon nefesh achayim bekurbo. Therefore, it becomes the food for the nefesh and the life in him. Michaya chayim ein sof baruch hu nefesh b'toicha. And that's what is called the Torah b'toch ma'ai. He says that the Torah is in my kishkas. Why does he say? What's it the David say that it's in my innards? Because it's a chayim that the levush of the neshamas and Gan Eden in the mitzvahs, and the Torah is the mozon of the neshamas. So just like we have food for the guf, we have food for the neshamas. So therefore, the Torah is in my essence, because the Torah becomes the food for my neshama, and therefore, any Torah you're working there, that's what keeps you alive there. Now we see the lishma. What is the definition of lishma? Because this is the Ulama says the Torah that you learn lishma. What's the Torah lishma? That's in order to lekash your nefesh LaHashem alidei hagasas Torah. So I mean, I would think that the Torah's lishma would be I'm learning to see what God wants, what God has to say. But he defines it here is that you're learning Torah in order to connect your nefesh to Hashem through understanding Torah, like the ways of which we have explained. So again, this is really the essence of Torah, and this is why Talmud Torah Kinei Kulam, because this is how you can. This is the way to connect yourself to God in a way that's even greater than mitzvahs, where you're grasping God and God's grasping you, and therefore you become one, a yichud niflo between your all your levushim and your 10 midos. So everyone according. So if you learn Torah in order to do that, everyone according to his seichel. That's what it says in Eitz Chaim. So that's chapter 5 of the Mile of the Torah. Again, the simple idea is that the Torah becomes part of you. When you learn the Torah becomes part of you, just like food becomes part of you when you eat it. Now, moving on to the Nefesh Behema. So hina zeh umazeh aser Elokim. So that there's always balance in the force. Because if there's no balance in the force, so then there's no battle, and then you'll just the Nefesh Elokis will just win out, or the Nefesh Behema will just win out, and we'll see that really the battle is what it's all about. So that's coming up later. So the Nefesh Behema again, which we said the Nefesh Behema is about Yeshness. So Zeh Umazeh. So Yeshness, my existence, all about me. So and therefore the Nefesh Elokis is all about bottle. It's not about me. I don't care about myself or about what I can get out of it. Now the Nefesh Behema. So Nefesh Behema loves sugar. So that's the midos. That's the love. What does the Nefesh Behema love? It loves things that I like. Whatever keeps me going. Sugar has calories, and sugar triggers my reward in my brain. But the Nefesh Elokis doesn't love sugar. Now it can love the elikus that's in the sugar, that the again whatever sugar exists. So therefore God is keeping it alive. So it can love the elikus that's in the sugar. It doesn't love sugar. Therefore, if I act and I eat the chocolate bar for the sugar that's in it, so therefore I am acting my maisa, the levush will be a levush of the Nefesh Behema. If I eat the chocolate bar in order to take out the Nefesh Elokis, to take the sparks of godliness that's in there, so therefore I am that's the levush of the Nefesh Elokis. So again, the levushim will come out of the essence. Then we explain the essence of the 10 midos, but then the 10 midos of the Nefesh Elokis is for God, and the 10 levushim of the 10 essence of the 10 midos of the Nefesh Behema will be about me. So just like the Nefesh Elokis is from the 10 sefiros of kedusha and the 3 levushim kedushim. So also the nefesh. So again, the levushim are holy. So when your machshava diba meiser are holy, so that's the levushim of the nefesh elokis. The nefesh the sitra achra miklipas noiga. So again, we spoke a little bit about the sitra achra. It's coming from the klipas noiga, So the next chapter is going to be by Klipa, so we'll kind of leave a bit now. Dam ha'adam. So this is the Dam ha'adam, this is the Sitra Achra, which is the Nefesh Behema. So that comes from the Meiser Kisrin of Tuma. So why is it a Keser? Keser is a crown. The crown is because it's not integrated. Things that are not integrated just sits on top, like the cream sits on top because the cream is not integrated into the milk. So the Tuma is not integrated into the essence of something, because it's only giving it its life. That's the 7 meters, the 7 meters ra of the boss mi arba yisodis ram. So again, just like we had that the meters toiv are coming from the 4 elements, so the good ones are coming from the other 4 elements, the bad elements. So everybody, so the makor of the midas, so the Chachma Binas Adas, which the Seichel is the makor of the midas. Now the Nefesh Elokis gets its midas from the Seichel, but the Seichel of the Nefesh Behema will basically be a tool in order, he'll use the Seichel to get what he wants. So once he has his midos, he'll use his Seichel to get what he wants, and therefore his midos will be different based on his Seichel. Because the midas are for the erech seichel. The katan will choshech v'oihiv devarim katanim pachus ha'erech. So children will have a strong desire for chocolate and candy, but adults tend to grow out of candy and then want things that children don't like beer. So according to the seichel of a katan and the katzer lahasik devarim mikarim, and also they get angry. And from small things, whereas adults, as you grow, as your seichel grows, so your midas will grow with them. And the 10 bechinas elo tameis, and Adam machshav behem or medaber oisa. So that's the machshava, the moicha v'dibro befiv v'koyach ha maisi shebiyada v'shara vero. So that your machshava, when you're doing these, when your machshava dibro meiser are not Torah, when they're all the Sitra Achra or Klipa, so therefore it will be from the Nefesh Behema. V'henhem kol ma'asim asher nasim tachas Hashem asher kol hevel. So everything that you do that is not kodesh. V'tzaddik kedusha ein ele hashras v'hamshacha mi kedusha. So perish losh and Sitra Achra perish tzad acher she'enu tzaddik kedusha. Now, Kodesh, so basically we have Klipa and Sitra Achra are just whatever's not Kodesh. So therefore we need a good definition of Kedusha. Kodesh is Muvdal, something that is separated. And what is the Kodesh Muvdal from? It is Muvdal from the Yeshness. So anything that's Muvdal from Yeshness is Kodesh. Anything that perpetuates the Yeshness is the Sitra Achra. So you have the Sitra Achra is just anything that's not Kodesh. So something that is separate from the Yeshness will then be revealing the essence of God. So that's Kodesh, and things that don't reveal the essence of God, therefore are Sitra Achra. So if you go down and go down the pub and talk football with your friends, so then that's Sitra Achra. It may not be Aser, it doesn't have to be Aser, but it's Sitra Achra because it is not Kodesh. So Tzaddik Kedusha is the Hashras v'chamshachas mekedusha shel Kodesh Baruch Hu. So if you have to have the dwelling and the drawing down of the Kodesh of Baruch Hu, so that's something that reveals God. Kodesh Baruch Hu is sure on a davar shebatel etzlo yisparach. So anything that's not bottled to God is Sitra Achra. Ben bepoil mamish like a malachim elyonim and ben pein bekoyach. And therefore the Chazal say even someone who sits in Torah, the Shekhinah is Shaira, because when you're bottled and you're learning Torah, therefore it's all that's where you draw down the Shekhinah. But whatever's not bottled to God, that's nifrad bifnei asma. So again, it's holding on to the yeshness. So it doesn't makabel the chiyus of kedusha of Kodesh Baruch Hu from the panimis kedusha elim mevichinas acharayim. So the front of God, the acharayim, is like the back that God doesn't want to face him, so that the level of sustenance in which they get becomes the crown. Because when you have the face of God, so therefore you can makabel the whole light of God, and you're makabeling God. But if you're not kadosh, so therefore you're only getting essence enough to live. You're not revealing God, and therefore the essence of God is hidden in you. Therefore you can't get the full koach of God, and therefore you have to take a back way. So it's a miyut acher miyut, and you just get enough to give life to it, and that's the that's the crown, because you don't embody. It's not fully integrated, and therefore this world is called Olam HaKlipa V'Sitra Achara. So again, the Olam is just hiding God. So therefore this world is called Klipa because it's hiding God. And all the Maisa are Kasha V'Rayim. What is Kasha V'Rayim? So again, Kashim is difficult because God's not revealed. Ra is broken. And the Rishayim are Goifer boy. So again, when you see the Rishayim gaining, so then that's the natural way of the world, because the Sitra Achra is ruling here, because God is not revealed here, so therefore the Rishayim should have their way. But the Klipos are coming to two Madrega Zu Lamata Mizu. So again, the Klipa don't go higher, they go lower. The lowest level is the Shlosh Klipos Tameos, Varos Lagamri. So again, these in Baham Tov Klal. So they don't have any good at all. And they're in Ruach Sarav Anav Gadol. So that the Ruach, so here we have the Klipas and Tameos, which is where obviously they're still in existence because God is allowing them to exist. However, the taiv that's in it, this spark of godliness that is allowing them to exist, cannot be revealed by man. We don't have the power to reveal them. Since we don't have the power to reveal them, they're called Ein Behem Toiv Klal. Even though there is toiv in them, it's just we can't reveal them. Now there are ways, for example, that even though it's also to eat pig, you can't eat it. You could use use pig skin and do things with the leather and use it for a mitzvah, like either wear shoes to go to shul or to make a football and enjoy yourself, so you can learn more afterwards. So they still have the ability to reveal the kedusha in them. Outside of the narrow, but their ikar essence, you can't take the essence out of them. So from them, the comes the nefesh of the umas oilam. So again, what we're saying is that the nefesh umas oilam cannot be mevatel, cannot be in a state of bittul. Now, most things in the world are in a state of yesh. They're created in a state of yesh. The chiddush is that a Jew can reach the level of bittul because he has a nefesh of the case, but the rest of the world can't. So they're all. So them and the non-kosher animals are also chila and the gufam and all the osir food from the tzomeach, like orlikli haklayim and the chiyus and all the ma'asatim machshava of all the 365 lotas say. So all those things are coming from the klipas tameos, and then he'll lead into chapter 7 about the klipas noiga, which we'll do next time.